What is going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here, back again with another episode of Review the Prem. Ben is not with us today because he is looking after his new baby daughter born over the weekend. So massive congratulations to him, but he's not going to be on today's episode on Review the Prem. So it's just going to be me reviewing all our predictions and the scores on the doors. As you know how things work around here. 5 points for a correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result. The star man, once you pick that man, you can't pick that man for the rest of the season. 5 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist. The scores at the moment are Ben's got 32, I've got 17. I'm in control of the scores this week, so if I get any extra points, Ben can't say anything. So let's see how the scoring works going into this weekend. So first up, 12:30 kickoff at the Emirates. Arsenal 3, Forest 2. Ben went for 2-0 to Arsenal. I went for 2-2. So maybe a bit eager to try and get some Ange points on the board. Didn't quite happen. Have to say, Arsenal were impressive, and credit to them. They didn't have Saka. They didn't have Odegaard. They didn't have, I think, Saliba. Odegaard went off injured. Saliba wasn't playing. Didn't seem to miss any of them, and that's quite worrying from a Tottenham fan's perspective, considering all those players missed that fixture against, a fairly decent Forest side. I know Ange Postecoglou, first game in charge, and it was always going to be difficult for him first game in the Emirates. I said if they were going to get a point, it was going to be a bit lucky. It didn't quite work out that way. Forest offered very, very little, but you have to say, fair play to Arsenal, because Zubimendi scored a brace. Madueke played brilliantly out on the wing, beating his man, I think, Morato, many, many times, especially in that first half. And Wanieri comes on, looks great. Eze got an assist. Gyökeres on the score sheet. So it looks like the work they've done over the summer, improving the depth of that team, is working well and paying dividends for them, because a very, very impressive, comfortable win, given the fact that they've got injuries. And those injuries in previous games have definitely kind of cost them, and they've definitely missed those kind of players in certain games in previous seasons. So the fact that they were missing and they were just as good has got to be a bit of a worry for the rest of the Premier League. So really good win for Arsenal. Forest, on the other hand, really lacklustre display, didn't offer much. And has got his work out for him based on that kind of performance. Wasn't a good performance from Nottingham Forest. Arsenal probably had it easier than they thought they would have. So Ange said it's not going to be months or weeks, it's going to be Wednesday till you see a change. So I think we're all looking forward to that. But yeah, 3-0. Ben gets a point, I don't. Next one, Bournemouth against Brighton at the Vitality. We both went for 2-2. It finished 2-1 to Bournemouth. Good win for Bournemouth. I thought they thoroughly deserved it. They were the better side for a lot of this game. Brighton did have their chances, and there were moments in the game where they were in it, but I definitely felt when the equaliser was a bit against run of play. I thought Bournemouth were the better side, albeit Brighton had a lot of possession and they were looking threatening, but Bournemouth just looked the ones more likely to score. And obviously Alex Scott scored a really nice goal early on, pile driver from the edge of the box, and then Matoma, lovely header at the back post to equalise, and Semenyo's winner on the hour mark saw Bournemouth continue what is a very, very impressive start to the season, considering all the players they lost, especially in the back line. They sit fourth at the moment, 3 wins out of 4. They just keep going from strength to strength, and Iraola, his stock keeps rising, and if it rises any further, he might be getting a Man United job at this point, because that's what the talk is coming to. A lot of people clamouring for Iraola over at Man United. Brighton have had a weird start to the season, beat Man City, but that's the only win they've had so far. So a bit of a mixed start for Brighton, 4 points out of 4 games, but really good stuff for Bournemouth, so 2-1 there. Next up, Selhurst Park. Sunderland went to Crystal Palace and finished 0-0. I went for 1-0, Ben went for 2-0, so neither of us get a point, but disappointing result for Crystal Palace at home to a newly promoted side. I think they just lacked that cutting edge. They did miss a host of chances. I'm looking at the XG 1.77. They had to 0.3 of Sunderland. So looking at the stats, 14 shots as well, 3 big chances. They really should have put one of them away. Mateta missing a big chance, and Yeremy Pino, the new signing, missing some really gilt-edged chances on his debut. I think he's one who's going to be looking to take up that burden that Eze is obviously leaving behind, and he's a good player, really good player at Villarreal, but on his debut fluffed a couple of chances, and that'll be frustrating for him. But at least, maybe there were signs that he could feel that burden if he can start picking those chances away. But good point away for Sunderland, who, you know what, started life in the Premier League really well, currently sitting in 7th place, 4 games, 2 wins, 1 draw and 1 loss. Unbeaten away from home as well. Sorry, not unbeaten away from home, but a good point away from home against Crystal Palace. Not easy to go there and get anything. And look, they'll count their lucky stars that they didn't concede a goal, considering the chances Palace had. But good point for Sunderland. And they continue going from strength to strength after a brilliant summer they had in the transfer window. Looks like they've taken to the Premier League really well. So good start for them. But no points for me or Ben. Next up, we go to Everton against Aston Villa. 0-0 in this one again. 2-1 I went for. Ben went for 2-0 to Everton. On the balance of play, probably should have been an Everton win. They had chances. Emi Martinez was at his absolute best to keep Everton at bay. 2.08 XG for Everton, 0.54 for Villa. Villa, 4 games without a goal. No goals so far this season. What is going on with their front line? What is going on with Unai Emery? Hasn't been able to get his team going. Not all is right at the moment. Aston Villa had a really kind of tumultuous summer, I think, the transfer window. Didn't struggle to get their targets in. Emi Martinez wanting out. He's ended up staying ahead of a brilliant game in this one, but all doesn't seem well there. It seems as though it's a bit of a fractious kind of dressing room at the moment. No goals scored is massively concerning for Aston Villa. Currently 19th in the league, 2 draws, 2 defeats. Everton will count themselves unlucky. Grealish had another good game. They created the chances, just couldn't put them away. And another day, they'll be sitting here on a victory. But yeah, Aston Villa, major cause for concern. I think they do have a double header against Burnley, and again, their next 2 games are Sunderland away, then Fulham, then Burnley. So if they haven't scored in these next 3 games, I think people got to start looking at Unai Emery potentially and what his job is saying, because they are under serious scrutiny. All right, so 0-0, no points again for Ben and I. Next up, Fulham against Leeds. I went for 1-0 Fulham. Ben went for 2-1. So I get a big, fat 5-pointer in this one. And it took a last-minute own goal to break the deadlock. And what an own goal it was. A corner comes in from the right-hand side. Goodmanson, completely free in the middle. He's a Leeds player. Heads it back towards his own net, just cushions it right into the corner. One of the greatest own goals you're likely to see, costing Leeds a point away at Fulham, which would have been a nice point. But I do think Fulham probably just about deserved it with the chances they had. I think maybe a 0-0 would have been fair. Chances were hard to come by, although Fulham were probably creating the better ones. Leeds will feel hard done by that they didn't get any points out of this one. And they still sit at the end with 4 points, 1 win, 1 draw and 2 defeats. But every game's been close. You know, drew 0-0 Newcastle, beat Everton 1-0, another 1-0 here. The other one that wasn't close was obviously the 5-0 drubbing against Arsenal. But yeah, Leeds have acquitted themselves fairly decently early doors. Fulham, good win, much needed win, first win of the season. But they are struggling to score goals. 3 goals so far this season, one of them being their own goal in this one. I think they're going to have to perform a lot better, Fulham, if they want to kind of improve on what they did last season. Next up, at the Molineux, St James's Park, Newcastle 1, Wolves 0. Me and Ben both went for 3-0. Nick Voltmader scoring on his debut, a really nice header for the Newcastle number 9. Obviously, Wissa missing out through injury, so he got the nod, and he was impressive, and it was a really good header, giving the Geordies a new hero at St James's Park. I think Newcastle deserved a victory, albeit Wolves did put up a bit of a fight. They forced Nick Pope into a few saves, and it wasn't kind of plain sailing. Probably wasn't as easy as Newcastle expected it, but I do think in the end of the day, they did create the better chances and the more chances. Wolves probably had more of the game than they expected, but they probably expected a heavy defeat. Turned out to be a kind of narrow defeat, and Wolves currently sitting rock bottom, the only team in the league with no points after 4 games, 4 losses out of 4, and they're going to have to improve quickly if they've got any chance to stay in this league. For Newcastle, first win of the season, they'll be happy. It wasn't the most kind of scintillating performance, but they got the win over the line, and the new striker bagging his first goal will also massively help his confidence. So a great day for Newcastle in the end, but Ben and I are getting a point each. Next up at the London Stadium, West Ham 0, Tottenham 3. B and Ben both going 3-1, so both of us close. We'd expected West Ham to score, and they didn't. It's a tale of set pieces and a red card, I think, in this one for Tottenham's point of view. Kind of a close game for a lot of it for the first hour, but set pieces did make the difference. Tottenham getting the goal, opening goal through Pape Matar, left all alone at the back post. I don't know what the West Ham team were doing in terms of marking. Absolutely shocking when it came to how they're marking from a set piece. It was absolutely diabolical. Pape Matar taking full advantage with a really good header. And then within a minute, the game was dead. Souček with a knee-high sliding challenge, getting himself sent off, absolute Stonewall red. And then Tottenham 1 minute later, through Lucas Bergkamp with a delightful header, lobbing it over Hermansen, makes it 2-0. At that point, the game is well and truly done. 3-0 from Van der Ven, put the cherry on top. But it was a simple day at the office for Tottenham, where it threatened to be a difficult and uncomfortable day. From West Ham's point of view, though, another heavy defeat at home off the back of losing 5-1 to Chelsea and also losing 3-0 to Sunderland on the opening day. All the positivity from the Nottingham Forest victory really seeped out of them in this one, and looks like they're maybe set to turn a corner after the Forest win, but they're back to square one, I think, after that heavy defeat, especially in the London derby. They expected probably better than what they saw, so a lot of West Ham fans very, very unhappy. Currently in the relegation zone, so a lot of concern for West Ham, albeit for a large part of this game it was fairly even, but the fact it's ended 3-0 on a simple day for Tottenham has got to be a massive concern. They did crumble in the end. A point each for Ben and I. So next up, Brentford-Chelsea. It finished 2-2 at the G-Tech Stadium. I went for 2-0 to Chelsea. Ben went for 2-1, and it was set to be 2-1 up until the 93rd minute, I believe, where Carvalho from a long throw, Garnacho doesn't track his man, and he has a free effort right at the back post. Chelsea were, I think, for the first half, were lackluster. Got back into it in the second half, dominated, brought on Cole Palmer, he changed the game. And all of a sudden they started to dominate. They got back in the game through Palmer, and Caicedo looked to have won it late on with a brilliant pile driver from 25 yards. But they just couldn't hang on to the lead. It was really poor defending from the long throw. Flicked on from Ajar and Aya, and there was Carvalho at the back post to seal the draw for Chelsea. And that'll be a very, very disappointing result considering how the scoring went, and as well, given they drew with Palace already this season, didn't look particularly great against Fulham, albeit got over the line. So very disappointing result, albeit some argue could they feel hard done by. Was Utara offside in that build up to the goal? He was offside, he didn't touch the ball, but he did make an attempt for it. So up to interpretation if he was involved in play. Referee said no. A lot of Chelsea fans think yes. Were they robbed? Let me know in the comment section below what you thought of that decision. But yeah, disappointing result for Chelsea. Brentford, on the other hand, after losing Frank and losing Norgard and a lot of players in the Wissa as well, and Buemo, they would have been forgiven for feeling sorry for themselves and accepting their fate. But up in 12th at the moment, and played well. Sade stepping up, Henderson back in the team and played really, really well. So fair play to Jordan Henderson. He had a really good game, and Brentford showing there's still fight left in them despite all the players and managers who have left their team this summer. So fair play to Brentford so far this season. But yeah, 2-2 draw with Chelsea. No points for me or Ben. Next up at Turf Moor, Burnley 0, Liverpool 1. And Ben went for 2-0, I went for 3-1, but it was a 95th minute penalty for Mohamed Salah, which won this game. Burnley had 19% possession, which is absolutely ludicrous figures when it comes to possession. Never seen them so low. Literally parking the bus, 11 players inside their own penalty area, and they were 1 minute away from claiming what would have been a fantastic point. They defended so well throughout a lot of the game. Liverpool really struggling to break them down and create any sort of chances against them, albeit Burnley offered very, very little going forward. But the pressure told right at the death. An absolute diabolical handball from Hannibal, giving Liverpool a penalty right at the death when it looked like they had seen Liverpool out and got the job done. He stuck his arm in the air. Absolutely inexplicable from him. Massive mistake, and Liverpool continue their 100% record, given the fact that they haven't played particularly well in all 4 games. They somehow have got 12 points out of 12 and sit top of the league. And it goes to show that winning kind of mentality they got. In each game, they've scored a late winner, and they just never know when they're beaten or never know when they're not winning, essentially, Liverpool. They keep going right to the death. And you got to think at some point, the performances will start to turn and they'll start playing well again. But right now, I mean, if they'll take 38 games of this because they're winning every game, albeit right to the death, but they've got to start improving their performances, because if they keep performing like this, the results will start to catch up with them, and I think Arne Slot knows that. But Isaac has yet to make his debut, so waiting to see how he comes into the side and how he performs. And the last game of the weekend was the Manchester derby at the Etihad. Man City 3, Man United 0. Me and Ben both went for draws here. 1-1 I went for, and Ben went for 2-2. Couldn't have been more wrong. 3-0 to Man City. And the writing is, with each passing week, on the wall for Ruben Amorim. Another absolutely diabolical performance. And this is a Man City side who lost fairly comfortably to Spurs at home. Goes to show that a well set up team can definitely cause them problems and can definitely go there without any fear. This is not the Man City side that of peak Pep. You know, they're still a good team, don't get me wrong. Haaland was at his absolute best in this one. He was absolutely brilliant. They've obviously got a load of talent, don't get me wrong, they're still a formidable team. But Man United should not be going there, considering it's a Manchester derby. Considering Amorim, the pressure he's under, they can't afford a performance like this where they're getting absolutely just tossed aside so easily. 3-0, they made light work of it, Man City. And Man United have got some serious soul-searching and questions. I said Amorim's on forward watch after the Fulham game. Since then, they've lost to Grimsby. They've just about beat Burnley with a last-minute penalty. I know Liverpool did the same, but wasn't the same kind of game. They got very, very lucky, Man United. And they've now lost 3-0 to Man City at the Etihad. Their worst start to a Premier League season in Premier League history after 4 games. Ruben Amorim saying he won't change. If you want him to change, you better change the manager. Bruno Fernandes in centre mid, where he's a number 10, doesn't quite work for me. Sesko hasn't got up to speed yet. I think at the moment, Amorim is a dead man walking. He's got to massively improve, and they've got Chelsea on the weekend. So if they don't get a result in that game, the pressure's going to build and build and build. 31 games, 8 defeats. I don't know where Man United go from here. They've invested so heavily in this project. They're kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't, and they're kind of caught in a catch-22. But at the moment, they're sinking without a trace, and they're going down and down the league. They finished 15th last season, currently in 14th in the league. The only win they have had is against Burnley in a last-minute penalty. Couldn't even beat Grimsby in the Carabao Cup. And now they've lost to Man City. I mean, if I'm a Man United fan, I don't know what I'd be thinking right now, because they decided to go all in on this project, and it's just simply not working. There's no two ways about it. It ain't working. I know this is some people say it's ironic coming from someone who backed Ange for so long, but at least with Ange, we saw, we had that 10-game spell at the beginning where he did really well. He finished 5th in his first season. Like, there were things to cling on to. When it worked, it works. With Amorim, we haven't seen it working. He hasn't even had like a golden spell or a good run of form. He hasn't won back-to-back games since he's taken over, and it's been almost a year. There is simply nothing to cling on to if you want to be positive about Man United right now. It's purely blind faith, and that is no way to be as for a top club. But they sacked Ten Hag when they did the same with him. They backed his project, and very early on they abandoned it when it wasn't going well. So they don't want to do the same with Amorim. But if they keep him, they're kind of admitting, should they have kept out Ten Hag? Because why Ten Hag had a lot more credit in the bank from Amorim. So I don't know why keeping Amorim would be the right decision and not keeping Ten Hag. So it doesn't really make sense to me. They're really in a catch-22, but Amorim's in deep trouble, in my opinion. Another lacklustre performance. But yeah, fair play City. Much-deserved victory. Back on track after a really disappointing 2 losses to Spurs and Brighton. Haaland looking back on form as well, but they were playing a very poor Man United team, so that has to be said. Starmen. Ben went for Wissa, who was not involved in the matchday squad. I went for Florian Wirtz, who did absolutely diddly squat against Burnley. Hauled off after 85 minutes. So, as the scores end, I've cut the gap to 11 points. Ben's on 36, I'm on 25. Ben's on 37. Ben's on 37. Okay, so I cut the gap to 12, sorry. We'll see you on Thursday for another episode of Predict the Prem, where Ben will be sending in his predictions and we'll go through them on Thursday. But we'll see you soon. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.